Brothers, the occasional sister, welcome to the Brocheck Club. I've been doing hay today, that's why I've got the chaps on. Just taking a break. Bit buggered actually, but I thought I'd crack out a video just for fun, outside here. The small things in life, like a peach, the pleasure of that when you've been working in the hot sun. Bite into it and find it's got a big worm in it sometimes. Oh, that is frigging divine. That is divine. Because I don't eat any processed food, everything tastes so incredibly sweet. Oh man. Who would think that a peach could give you so much joy? One of the most dangerous things we have in our community is a young man that's lost. A boy that's growing into a man that's lost his way and has no guidance. An angry young man. Because he grows into be an angry man that causes all sorts of pain in his community, within his family, within the workforce that he's in. And that's why it's so important for us men to help young fellas. So I would say to each and every brother out there, if you're my age and you've got the resources, make some time for a young bloke that doesn't have a father. I grew up without a dad being around, and I ran amok. And I often think back, if there'd just been a man in my life from the age of maybe 8 to 15, how different my life would have been. I'm not blaming my upbringing on anything, because when you become adult, you become responsible for everything. All your past, yes, it affects you, but you do have to take responsibility, no matter how. And there's people I know that have had horrendous upbringings that have taken full responsibility. I got one guy, I'm not going to even tell you about how horrible his existence was and what was done to him as a child, but he is an upstanding man today. He's loyal, he's hardworking, he's generous, and he had the worst possible start in the world. And I also know a number of guys that actually had a bloody good start, even within my own family, some that aren't doing as well as they could. So we're all uniquely different and we all make our choices, but I believe, and as always, only my opinion, not necessarily correct, but from my experience within our community, the trouble begins with these young guys that don't have the right guidance, particularly when they're entering from boy to manhood. I mean, it probably starts way back further than that. It probably starts off as a baby or as a child, the first 7 years of their life or the first 6 years. But that next transition, going from boy to man, is also a critical one for them to find their role models and to know which direction to put their energy and to actually harness that anger that they might have and put it into something good. So I'll give you just a case scenario of just one of the many boys I've taken out over the years hunting and how it turned out for him. He came round to my place with a cigarette hanging out his mouth. He got dropped off by his worker. He had a care worker. They're called care workers because they get paid for it. Got dropped off and I said, no smoking on the property, mate. And he just kept on smoking it, defiantly looking at me. And I said, you'll have to get rid of that cigarette. He was like, kept on smoking it. So I just grabbed it, took it out of his mouth and stomped it on the ground. If you've got 4 boys that all smoke and you put a 5th boy with them who's a non-smoker, after 2 or 3 weeks that 5th boy will become a smoker. And in reverse, if you have 4 boys that don't smoke and you put 1 boy that smokes with them, after a few weeks of those guys working together, hunting together, bonding, the 5th guy will stop smoking. And that's where peer group pressure is a positive thing. We got up the back of the Pierce Valley where I do a lot of hunting, or used to at least in my younger days. Haven't been up there for a while, although I still will hunt up there from time to time. We got up there, just me and him. We'd been driving in the truck and the whole way he was yabbering about this and that and going out with his uncle, and I just felt sorry for him. He just seemed like a kid that just so badly wanted the approval of an older male. Didn't have a father. So badly wanted to hear, you're okay son, you're good, you got this. He was trying to prove to me this and telling me all these stories. Half of them were probably made up anyway, but I was like, oh yeah. And then he wanted to have a cigarette in the truck. I said, no smoking when you're around me, mate. What you do in your own times, that's up to you, but no smoking. And we got to Goat Creek. We started walking up there and I said, right, no more talking. Back in the day I had a dog called Chun and a dog called Girl, and I forget the other ones. Chun was my main dog and Girl was my other main dog. I had a dog called Stark. He was pretty useless actually. And we started walking up the creek, and it's just beside me there, walking along and being pretty good, being pretty quiet. And then we got onto the hill, and I said, we're going to go over the top of that hill, and the next gully down, there'll always be a pig in the next gully down, because there's a tree there that has walnuts, and at this time of year the nuts will be on the ground and the pigs will be feeding on them. It's like, yeah, and he was excited about it. We started going up the hill, and he started to really struggle, so I made sure I went a little bit harder, and I said, come on, keep up. Now I was probably then, it's 20 years ago, I was 40, and he would have been 13, maybe 14, and he was struggling to keep up. I said, come on, keep up. I'm old enough to be your granddad just about. And he's like pushing, and after a while I turned around and said to him, I said, you smoke. Your lungs can't handle us, buddy. You're a smoker. You want to be a hunter? You can smoke if you want to, but you're really going to decrease your chances of having a real supreme fitness like an athlete. Athletes don't smoke. To be a really good pig hunter, you've got to be an athlete, because we're athletes hunting pigs, and they're athletes, and our dogs are athletes. We've got to be part of that circle, you know. They don't just all sit down and say, I'll wait for old such and such because he's a cigarette smoker and he can't get up the hill. They've gone. So I had that, we talked to him, got further up and left him behind again, smoked him again. We got to the very top. When we got to the very top of the hill, my dog Chun had come back. I thought, oh shit, that's disheartening. But Girl was nowhere around. In those days we used to use tracking gear that was an MN10, it was known. It was a big aerial that you'd hold out, and it would beep, 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 as it got close to the dog. And that's all we had. And prior to that, it was just listen to the bark. So it was actually, the technology was quite new then. It was quite exciting to have this thing. It was a big aerial you pull out of your back, and you'd unfold these big things like a television aerial. It was this sort of wide, and you'd be holding it around, and beep, 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 and you go in that direction. You didn't know how far the dog was away. All you knew was that direction was where you had to go. So Girl had a collar on, and Chun had come back, and I said to this young fella, if Girl's gone down there, she's gone right down to the next gully. That's going to be a long walk. You're going to have to keep up with me, and if you get lost, you've got to stay in one place. I don't want to lose you up here, because we didn't have GPS. So we carried on down the gully, and he's keeping up, and he's really struggling, this kid. He wasn't carrying any excess weight. He just had been smoking all the time, and he wasn't fit. We get down to the bottom of the gully, and we can hear this faint, like a pig will squeal one tone. Wee! They don't go wee, wee. They just do one tone. They have one tone only when they start squealing, and I just heard the squeal, and Chun heard it, and he took off. He was gone. And I said, look, I got to run. I'll be going straight down there. You just go to where the noise is if you can't keep up with me. Well, he didn't keep up with me, and I sprinted down towards it, and it was a good boar. It was a boar that was, Girl had latched onto its nuts at the back, literally latched onto its nuts, and had a saddle back. It was like a white saddle around its shoulders coming down, and it had little white socks on the front legs. About 110 fat little boar. We didn't actually weigh it. We ended up chopping the head off and carrying it out, but that's later on. So I got down there, and I dropped the guts out and whipped the head off quickly, because this kid still hadn't caught up with me, and I couldn't hear him, and I started whistling like a real, and I could hear this faint voice, where are you, where are you? Shut up, Johnny. It's Johnny barking. I was like, I'm over here, I'm over here. He'd gone completely off a subsidiary spur, right way away. I had this pig, and I had to now put the pig down to go and get him and bring him back to the right place to get out. So I put the pig down, marked where it was, left it, ran down the gully, up the other side, calling the whole time. In the meantime, he's hearing my voice bouncing off the gully on the other side. He's moving further away from me, so it's getting harder and harder to get to him. Eventually, I found his track in the bush, his boot mark. In winter, there's a marker there, and I found it, and I started whistling, and he'd gone down the other side. He got confused, and I whistled him, and I'm over here. I said, come back up, come back up. So I waited him to come back up, and eventually he came back up after like half an hour, and he's all profusely sweating. He goes, oh, I'm stuffed. I said, you got a lot of walking to do, pal. You went in the wrong direction. I told you to start in the same place if you got lost. Shut up, John. It's okay. John's getting excited because he knows I'm telling a hunting story. Anyway, long story short is we got back to the pig, and I said, right, you got the first carry. And he's a 13-year-old kid, and it's about 110 pound roughly, that's the head off, on his back. and he was going nowhere. But I gave him a carry, and he was absolutely chuffed. Anyway, got everything packed up, got the pig on my back, and started doing the hard yards out. And even with the pig on my back, he was struggling to keep up. We got to the top of the hill, and when we got back to the truck, he said to me, "Can I have a cigarette now?" I couldn't believe it. I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "You couldn't keep up me the whole time, and you want to have a cigarette?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "If you do that, you're never ever going to be as fit or as strong as you possibly could be. You can still hunt. Plenty of hunters are smokers. I know plenty of guys that pig hunters have a cigarette, but they're never as fit as the guys that don't, and they also have shorter lives. As a rule, not always. Some manage to beat the odds, but statistically." And everything I said about that day would not change his mind, and I kept on taking him out probably 5 or 6 times, and he still kept on smoking and still struggled to start me on the hill. Long story short, I had 3 other boys, one from Murahau, one from Mahana, which is that way about 15k, and one in my hometown, Mapua. And I got all the boys together, and these guys all played rugby, and they're all super fit, and they're all like 13, 14 years of age. And the young fella, the smoker, I'm just going to call him a smoker, I'm not going to use his name because these are real people with real lives, and I'm sharing personal information that is personal. And got them all together, and we went for a hunt, same place in the Pearce. We didn't get anything, but none of the boys smoked, and you know, that kid didn't once pull his ciggies out in front of the other boys, and they all got on well together. The following weekend we went to Long Gully, which is where I hunt today, and it was forestry. Got an average pig, I think it was probably 50, 60, an unrememberable pig. Got it on the smoker's back first, and he did his walk, and they all shared it amongst each other, and they were joking. And this is the days long before YouTube or filming stuff. I used to just do this. Now that kid, he stopped smoking, and it wasn't me. That's the point of this video. Peer group pressure is actually a good thing sometimes, and I've used it for stopping lots of boys from drinking. It doesn't work with everybody, and a lot of the young fellas I've had over the years have failed. One of the young fellas I had, and you guys will know him, and I won't say his name because he's a rogue, but he actually led my nephew Mikhail astray. And I had him here on the property, and he was a smoker, and I put him with other boys, and he still kept on smoking. He was a rapper, and he talked my nephew Mikhail into stealing a car, but he didn't tell him he was stealing. He said, "Look, there's this car over here." Somehow he'd stolen the keys. He said, "If you grab it, we'll use that and drive it." And so he jumped in the car, over in Takaka, and he jumped in the car, and this guy came out with a 4x2 and tried to wrap it around his head, and Mikhail had no idea that this kid that I've been looking after had set him up. Prick. After everything I'd done for him, set him up. And what a horrible kid. Some kids, you know, you'd help as much as you can, they still shit on. Well, he shitted on my family and set him up. The police actually, in the end, had to go to court and everything. Mikhail, he didn't know he'd stolen anything. He was completely unaware of it, but that doesn't stand up. Eventually, he had a duty officer, and he got diversion. And Mikhail's dead now, and he drowned a couple of years after that. But yeah, some of the boys I've tried to help are no longer in this world anymore. Some of them have gone to prison, but a lot of them, it's made a difference. A lot of them write to me now and catch up, or drop in and say g'day and say, "Hey, look, you don't realise the impact you had on my life just those days of taking me out fishing or taking me out hunting and stuff. It's just when there was no one there that gave a shit, you actually taught me a lot and made me feel I had some sort of purpose." And I would use peer pressure a lot of the time in a positive way. So peer group pressure is a good thing when it's used as a tool in the right way. Anyway, brothers, I've rattled on too much. I need to go and carry on and do some more work. I just want to have a break in the shade and drink some water and eat a peach. I hope this has been some benefit to you. If you're also helping young men in some way, put the boys together that are good with the boy that's bad, and the boy that's bad, more often than not, he'll listen to the peers, his peers, more than he'll actually listen to you. Same applies to parents trying to teach their kids. Their mates have got way more sway over them than what we have. That's a fact. Go steady, and I'll see you in the next Bro Check Club video. See you later.